The country's largest federal public service union, the Public Service Alliance of Canada, is meeting in Quebec City for a major conference, and the election is very much on their mind. Joining us right now is Larry Rousseau. He's the Public Service Alliance Canada Regional Executive Vice President for the National Capital Region. Larry, good to speak with you.
Good to speak with you. Thank you.
Give us a sense of what's on the agenda at PSAC's convention.
PSAC this week it's just chock full. So today we're spending the day on the budget, but right now as we speak, we had an emergency resolution that was presented by the board of directors. That resolution is currently on the floor. I just managed to get out of there like 30 seconds ago to get on the call, and it's very passionate. It's very strong. These members are united, and we're coming out of the first day of convention today. It's going to last all week, but our members are very, very passionately committed to fighting all the actions that this government has taken to attack our collective bargaining rights as well as our members' rights, and the list goes on and on and on.
What's the gist of the resolution being debated right now?
The gist of the resolution is that we condemn the Conservative government for undermining the collective bargaining process, and I'll tell you what we specifically mean by that. As you know, in the budget last week, the finance minister said that they were going to book $900 million in savings because they were going to introduce their short-term disability plan to replace our current sick leave regime. And so he's actually counting the chickens before they've even hatched. He's counting the eggs before they've been laid. And what we're saying is not so fast. We're still at the table. We're still trying to put proposals on the table to improve our current regime. We've told you that we don't want to go with a short-term disability regime, so we have things that we need to talk about. For the finance minister to already book $900 million in savings for this fiscal year is really short-circuiting the collective bargaining process.
But if
so
okay, sure, I understand that. But let me ask you, if he did otherwise, had he not booked the savings, wouldn't that be sending a signal to the bargaining units of your union and others that the government's not serious about this?
Well, you're supposed to do that through your negotiators at the table by wielding this large political stick to say, if you don't agree to what we want you to have, then we're going to take out this big, huge stick and hit you over the head with it. Where's the free collective bargaining in that? That's a threat. And anybody who negotiates through threat is not really negotiating.
Is there room to find compromise on this issue? It seems to me that it's a pretty black and white issue. It's either stick with the status quo or replace it with a very significantly different program.
If only we had seen actions on the part of this government in the past that would allow us to believe that they are genuinely, sincerely interested in compromising. For example, we know that the sick leave regime that we currently have can be improved. Mr. Clement in the past has said that it has been abused. Not 1 hour of sick leave is actually approved without a manager signing off somewhere. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we can fix the problem as opposed to throwing the baby out with the bathwater and imposing a regime that will be privatized, given by contract to a insurance company that is going to cost the taxpayer a heck of a lot more than $900 million over the next 5 years.
Yeah, the new program they're introducing sounds an awful lot like a lot of people in the private sector might be operating under. Is there anything wrong with bringing the public service union more in line with what's happening in the private sector?
Well, there's nothing wrong as long as you can show real efficiencies, and there are things that have happened in the past where that has been done. However, when we have looked at sick leave within the public sector, we have a public health approach normally because we are public sector employees. So, for example, in the city of Ottawa, in Ottawa-Gatineau, we have thousands and thousands of employees every day who use public transit. When they are sick, all they're doing is spreading that to everybody else. society, and we have a concentration of public sector workers in this city. We've had this debate decades ago where we said we cannot do this, and you ask any public health official in any city, they will tell you, even on the Public Health Agency website, if you have the flu, if you are sick, please stay home. But what we're telling Mr. Clement and what we're telling this government is if people have to choose between getting paid and staying home, well, guess what? We're going to go into work sick, and that is not a choice that we want to have anyone face at any time.
Now, your characterization of the plan is certainly different from the government's. While it's different, I didn't see that the plan being proposed by the government would incent people not to stay home when they are actually sick. They would still be covered.
They are covered for 6 days, up to 6 days a year, and it's still not clear. For example, if you're sick in January 3 days, okay, then you've got 3 days left, okay, for the rest of your year. It will take, after you've had your 6 days, all right, and that's for any type of leave, okay, sick, if you stress, whatever. Once you've used that up, you go on 7 days without pay until you're actually able to go on to the short-term disability plan. And that we are seeing would have to be one occurrence. You'd have to be sick for more than 2 weeks in order to get back onto this plan and be paid. So 7 days without pay, that is cutting people's salaries right now. And that's what we're telling our members. And our members are getting it because they are incensed. You go anywhere throughout the public service at any level, and people are incensed at what this government is trying to do.
When the government first announced this intent, Tony Clement, the Treasury Board Minister, I think it was about a year ago, the unions, including yours, were very adamant that you wouldn't even negotiate. You wouldn't even talk about this at the bargaining table during the current collective bargaining season. I'm wondering if that's creating some of the problem here, that there's no appetite on your side to even sit down and at least negotiate or at least see if there's room for a compromise on this issue.
What we've never said we will not negotiate. What we did say was that we will not negotiate concessions. We don't want concessions on the table. That means giving something up that is already in the contract. It's in the contract. We want to improve it. You want to find efficiencies. We will find efficiencies. We will negotiate improving the regime. And when we mean improving the regime, that means that it has to be improvement seen on both sides. And we're willing to negotiate that. But we're not willing to take the current regime and you're telling us that you're going to give it to by contract to an insurance company that is going to cost billions over the next 5 years. That makes absolutely no sense to us. And we'd like Mr. Clement to come out and say, when you have to open 275,000 files for public servants, the insurance companies, no matter which insurance company it is not going to do that for free. It's going to charge the taxpayer. The taxpayer is going to be stuck with a huge bill. And in fact, we even wonder at this point if there is even a company that could take on that kind of a contract. And I refer you to what's going on with Bell Canada and shared services right now, 1 year late with coming in deliverables because they're coming to the point that they're seeing that to try to amalgamate all the email systems is just too big a job. Well, this is the same boondoggle that's going to happen with the sick leave, and that's what we're trying to tell Canadians, and that's what we're trying to tell the government.
Yeah, I want to get into that just for a moment because, and I know you have to go, but this is an election year. Governments don't do anything in election years unless they think it's going to maybe play out well on the hustings. Maybe short of losing a seat or two in Ottawa, they seem to think that this kind of tough love for public servants plays well out in during an election campaign. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think the Canadians are starting to wake up. We're starting to see things change in the West. Who would think what was going on right now in Alberta would actually start? So people are starting to really take another look at all the misinformation, at all these promises that politicians make, and they're starting to kick the tires, and they're starting to say, hey, we're starting to listen to the other side. We're not so sure that only the government has all the answers, because right now we're saying, no, there are other options out there, and Canadians are starting to listen.
PSAC has vowed to take this to the polls and campaign against the Harper government. That should surprise no one. I think the union does that every time there is an election. Should public servants really, and their unions by extension, even be involved in election campaigns?
We won't be involved in election campaigns per se, but what we are telling our members at PSAC is that you have to get out to vote. So if we are going to be telling our members, here are the issues, here are the implications of what's going on for you as members, but here's what the implication for public services in general for the Canadians. So get out there and vote. We will not tell you how to vote, but I think it becomes quite apparent at the end of the day of who you should not vote for. We cannot continue to vote for governments that don't respect our fundamental rights at the bargaining table and that don't respect public services. That is the issue, and people are really starting to listen.
All right, Larry Rousseau, you've been good enough to step out of your meetings in Quebec City to talk to us. Thank you. Appreciate you doing that.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.